Welcome back to Ty Sports Picks 24. I'm gonna say it again. Ty Sports Picks 24. It's Big Money Tuesday. We got a lot of picks going on in MLB. Even got a WNBA game for you. As you know, it's getting closer to playoff time, so we're gonna look up the standings and see how the ladies are doing on the court. But out on the field, in baseball, we got the New York Yankees money line, Atlanta Braves money line, Detroit Tigers money line, Philadelphia Phillies, and the New York Mets money line. And then we also, this is just a money line day, we got the Minnesota Lynx money line tonight in the WNBA. So for MLB, there's going to be the Yankees, the Braves, the Tigers, the Phillies, the Mets, and then for the WNBA, we got the Minnesota Lynx money line. Now, Monday Night Football was last night, and also the picks will be in the description. Some of my observations, Aaron Rodgers, some people said he didn't look himself. Some people said he did, but I did hear a doctor this morning on the Coach JB show saying that, even once you get back to normal, it takes, I want to say a few months before you have full mobility. But he looked a lot better than Kirk Cousins. They were saying that Kirk Cousins, that's why he was in the shotgun on Sunday for the Falcons, and that may have affected him, getting caught up in the pass rush because he couldn't really move around in the pocket. As you study quarterbacks, you learn that, pocket presence, not just being fast, but sometimes being subtle with your feet can prevent you getting sacked and can help you get the ball out in a timely manner. I actually rewatched the Pittsburgh Steelers 18-10 victory over the Falcons. The Falcons scored the only touchdown of the game, but because of the lack of mobility inside the pocket, Justin Fields was able to outdo Kirk Cousins as far as passing yards with 156. If you watched the game, you would have thought Justin had more yards than that, even though he had a nice amount on the ground. But he made a couple of big throws to George Pickens, and then I think it was a flag that called a big one back. Yeah, George Pickens pushed off on I think AJ Terrell of the Falcons. But as far as last night's Monday night game, it wasn't the thriller that we had on Sunday night, but I saw impressive things from both teams. A star was born in Jordan Mason. There was a little confusion because a reporter asked him when did he know he was going to start for the injured Christian McCaffrey that's out with a calf injury, and he said he knew Friday night. And apparently, because of the league injury report rules, the San Francisco staff and head coach weren't too happy about him answering that, so they asked him again in an official post-game speech, and he seemed kind of down, like I don't know if somebody pulled him to the side and reprimanded him, but rookies make rookie mistakes, but shout out to Mason. Cam and Mason made a joke about it, saying that they don't need Christian McCaffrey right now because his name's Jordan and his name Mason, so his mother blessed him twice. Because Mace's name is Mason Bethel or something like that. But yeah, it's a lot going on in the NFL as we move to my Miami Dolphins being the first game of this week, kicking it off on Thursday night. I'm not gonna give my prediction yet, but I'm pretty sure you guys know who I'm gonna go with. But Tua comes in as the top passer. The top rusher coming into this game is gonna be James Cook. It's an interesting contest because you have two talented teams. I saw Von Miller back. He seems like he's fully back off of that knee injury from 2 years ago. He actually had one of the game-closing sacks against Kyler Murray. He just basically one arm just drove the offensive tackle into Kyler Murray. So he's very effective. Then you got Gregory Rousseau, the former Miami Hurricane. I think he had like 2 sacks himself. So they're definitely doing big things in Buffalo. But the only thing that would make it better is if it was a daytime game. But it's still even hot, even at nighttime down here in South Florida. So hopefully we can use that heat even in September as an advantage over Buffalo. Usually the home game, you try to make it a daytime game against Buffalo, against New York, or the Patriots in those November, December. That's usually always a win for the Dolphins. I've heard people complain about, the visitor side not having that canopy to cover them up. But unfortunately, the NFL 2 years in a row has made Buffalo come down to Miami at nighttime. Maybe it's because it's 2 big-time teams, but I think that kind of even in the playing field and taking away that unfair advantage that the Dolphins usually would have as far as, having the weather on their side. Right now, the ESPN matchup predictor has it 50.6% to the Buffalo Bills and 49% to the Dolphins. But hey, that's why human intelligence, official intelligence, is way better than artificial intelligence. But let's move on to that Cowboys and Saints game. That's going to be in the 1 o'clock window on Fox. They got the Cowboys favorite -6.5. Derek Carr had a great showing, but so did Dak. Alvin Kamara, he's back to full force, so it's going to be an interesting game. Then you got another 1 o'clock game is going to be Detroit hosting Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all know that was an interesting contest in the playoffs last year. We'll see if Baker Mayfield gets his play back. As of now, that's -7 for Detroit. That's a lot of points. Then you got the Colts and the Packers are going to be taking each other on. Now, one thing about this would have been a lot better if Jordan Love was playing, but now they have Malik Willis, the former Tennessee Titan. He's familiar with the Colts, but he's one of those guys. I don't know if he's going to get it on Green Bay because he's brought there to be the backup. But the same way we were speaking of Sam Darnold and the Rich Gannons and the Jim Plunkett, guys that can be redeemed because he had all the tools in the world. Remember, he was supposed to be his first-round pick. He failed, and then the guy they have now, Will Levis, was supposed to be a first-round pick. He failed. Neither one of them are doing too well, but they did show signs. Maybe that's a Tennessee problem more than a Malik Willis problem. So maybe Brandon LaFleur, on the short week can get him ready. And who knows what he'll be able to throw at the Colts. But Anthony Richardson is definitely a star, and he's a lot to deal with. Now skipping ahead to that Jets game, I think we all expect the Jets to perform well, but they're back on the road. They're going to Tennessee. Speaking of Tennessee, but Will Levis is a struggling quarterback at this point. Then you got the 49ers, despite missing Christian McCaffrey, the rookie Mason ran for 147 and a touchdown. So it's going to be a battle between them and the Vikings. If this was home, you take 49ers, but with it being on the road, the Vikings are no slouch. They're not afraid of the 49ers. I just don't know if they have the running game to go with that passing game that they have. Because one thing about the 49ers, and they were speaking on it, they take away drives because they drive the ball. They do short passes. They run. They occasionally go deep. So you may not get the ball back for 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 6.5 minutes at a time. So they can take your passing game out of rhythm and have you trying to force things when you get the ball back. When you look at Seattle and the Patriots, I love what Geno Smith is doing in Seattle, but the Patriots are moving with defense and running game. Ramondre Stevens had 25 carries for 120 yards. And one thing that Trent Richardson, the Alabama great former first-round running back, said, with all these smaller linebackers, a lot of people don't want to tackle these huge running backs, so you may see an uptake in rushing yards and rushing attempts, whether by committee or just by all down backs, 3 down backs. Then you got the Giants against the Commanders. This is the suck bowl until they prove differently. The Commanders suck. The Giants suck. Hopefully the Commanders can get it together with their rookie quarterback. But they got beat heavily in Tampa Bay on Sunday. Then we got the LA Chargers and the Panthers. I mean, the way the Chargers looked on Sunday, they played kind of like hardball ball. Even though the score didn't reflect it, they kind of beat down on the Raiders, but the Raiders did fight back. I don't know if the Panthers have any fight in them. Only thing they have on their side is that they are at home, so it's a cross-country trip. But I don't know if a hardball team will be affected by a long plane ride to Carolina. Then you got Deshaun Watson. It's a lot going on. It's just a lot going on. We're going to focus on the on-the-field things. They're going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville was a scrappy team, but they lost the lead against the Dolphins last week. But you can tell that Trevor Lawrence has a lot of weapons along with his running back in his running game, ETN. You got the Evan Ingrams, the Christian Kirks. You got Brandon Thomas. I really see Jacksonville really, having a coming out party and showing out this week. When you look at the Raiders and the Ravens, that's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of black out there. And then you go on to the Rams and the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, he had a heck of a performance last week on the ground and through the air. Let's see if he can have a repeat performance. And as far as Matthew Stafford, you're going to be down Puka Nacua, but you still have Cooper Kupp. So it's like when you have one, you don't have the other. You know, it'd be great to see both of those guys healthy throughout the season. Now, you look at the Steelers and the Broncos. The Broncos showed a little bit something against the Seahawks, but they just couldn't last. They did get a garbage touchdown, but the Seahawks pretty much, gapped them for most of the game, especially the second half. I feel like the Steelers are kind of a shaky team on offense, but the defense is spectacular. That pass rush with T.J. Watt, he used to look like a Pro Bowler. Now he's starting to look like maybe a Hall of Famer like his brother. So I don't know with a rookie quarterback and you bringing all that pressure from Pittsburgh. I think they brought pressure like 49 or 40% of the time on the snaps on defense last week. So, rookie quarterbacks going against blitzing defensive coordinators can be a lot. Then you got the Bengals and the Chiefs. Joe Burrow's another guy coming off of a leg injury, Achilles injury or whatnot. He usually figures out a way to beat the Chiefs, but with his lack of mobility, I don't know. You never know. And then the running game isn't what it used to be when they had mixed. And then you look at Sunday night game. It's going to be Caleb Williams' first Sunday night game. He's going against C.J. Stroud in Houston, Texas. Caleb won the game last week, but he did not have a good showing under 100 passing yards. And then two of their receivers, Roma Duzier and Keenan Allen, are both dealing with injuries. So that could be a lot. They're going to Houston. I don't think anybody expects them to win. They just want to be competitive, at least for 2 or 3 quarters. When you look at the Falcons and the Eagles, that's a great Monday night game. But as long as Kirk Cousins is in the condition he's in, I don't know if they're going to be able to deal with the Eagles, especially at home. The Eagles at home, that could be a lot to deal with, So that's just a little preview. I didn't even really give too many predictions or whatnot. These are the picks if you didn't see today's picks. But also let's see what's going on in the world of college football, because it's a lot of matchups going on. Again, I'm not giving picks for those. I got the picks on the screen, but as far as the games for the NFL and college football, you have to stay tuned to later in the week. But I am just giving you a preview. And you also, just like the Christian McCaffrey thing last night with Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason saved you if you did money line, but a lot of people are taking player props. I'm not sure if you get your money back if you bet on the player and the player is injured. So you got to be careful with that. Now, on Friday night, they're going to have number 20 Arizona taking on number 14 Kansas State. Kansas State just made it out by the skin of their teeth against Tulane, but that's a team that took Ole Miss down to the wire. Tulane beat USC in the Cotton Bowl 2 years ago, so that's nothing to be ashamed of. And they actually gonna see Oklahoma, I think, this week. We'll get to that one. But yeah, this matchup on Friday night, if you're not out watching high school football, this would be a great one to watch at 8 o'clock on Fox. It's a top 25 or top 15, top 20 matchup, number 14 against number 20. Arizona looks very dominant, the number 1 receiver in the country, even though I thought, Trey Harris was, and he still looks like it from Ole Miss. But when you got a guy like how do you say his name? McMillan, T. McMillan. I'm just going to call him T. McMillan. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Teteroa McMillan. When you got him in for Phil, it's a lot to deal with, man. But Kansas State has always been a physical team. They're kind of in the likeness of a Utah, and then they have their quarterback, Avery Johnson, though he hasn't performed up to the way that people thought he would. Then on Saturday, big noon Saturday on Fox, you got Alabama and Wisconsin. Jalen Milroe seems to be improved, but the offensive line, not so much. But then when you look at Tyler Van Dyke, he's been up and down for Wisconsin. They always can run the ball, so it'll be interesting. You can't just sleep on a Big Ten team at home. You never know. Then you got Oklahoma State and Tulsa. Oklahoma State, they got thrown everything they can handle last week against Arkansas. They're on the road at Tulsa. Tulsa usually goes hard against those Big 12 teams. So expect it to be a game for maybe a half. LSU and South Carolina is the SEC on ACC game at noon. South Carolina, they don't look pretty, but they are winning. LSU, they're winning, but they could be better. Their defense is better, but it's still not where it needs to be. Michigan still ranked at number 17. They're not guaranteed to win this one. Arkansas State, moves the ball around. They're one of those scrappy G5 teams. So I think this will be a great game to maybe let Alex Orji try to throw the ball. Jalen Milroe wasn't the best throwing at first. I mean, Alex Orji definitely can run, but nobody's going to respect his running game until they know he can pass it. So maybe against a smaller opponent, this would be the time. You already took a big loss to Texas, 31-12. Then you got Missouri and Boston College on the SEC network, both undefeated teams. This can go either way. I know a lot of people expect Missouri to blow them out. Bill O'Brien is an NFL coach. You cannot take that for granted because he's not one of these college coaches that's lazy, that's just trying to out-talent you, because that's not how you win in the NFL. The talent is equal. He will find a weakness like he did with Florida State, and he will hit you and hit you and hit you until you find that you can do something different to stop it. So that's going to be a battle of the mind. When you look at Oregon versus Oregon State at 3:30 on Fox, this is action-packed on Saturday. This is hosted by Oregon State. Oregon has struggled with Oregon State over the years. Don't expect any difference because Oregon's been struggling against everybody. They struggled against I think a FCS team the first week, and then Boise State. They do what Boise do. They barely beat Boise 35-38 or something on Saturday. So we'll see if they make it out alive. Then you got Florida, Miami of Florida against Ball State. This one should be over quick. Cam Ward seems like one of those guys that does not like to come out of the game. He likes to put up those big numbers, so we'll see. Then we got Tulane and Oklahoma that I mentioned earlier. Oklahoma can't be looking forward to the next game against Tennessee. You have to take Tulane serious, or they will let you know. If you don't believe me, ask Notre Dame. Notre Dame is still good, though they have to improve on offense. But they went on the road and beat a ranked team in Texas A&M. But then look, they take a loss to Northern Illinois, even though Northern Illinois used to be good. If you know your history in the early 2010s, they were going to Orange Bowls playing against Florida State. So this isn't the first time. So expect them to be a favorite from here on out to get that 12th spot in the playoff. Then you look at Utah and Utah State. Shout out to Kenneth. Utah, they're on the road at Utah State. Is a rivalry game. You just have to take these guys serious, but I think it's going to be a lot of hate because it's in-state, so I don't think they'll overlook them. They just have to understand that they're going to bring everything that you can handle. Ole Miss and Wake Forest, this is going to be a good get-up game for Ole Miss. It seems like they kind of disinterested and bored. They may not be up to their caliber, but Wake Forest does play teams hard, I think, on the road. Nonetheless, they'll give Ole Miss a nice challenge for the first half and, get Jackson Dart and, the running game and everybody in the groove of things, Rashad Amos, Henry Parrish, so we can see what they really have. Then you got San Antonio, UTSA against the University of Texas. All these Texas teams like to beat on Texas. Texas is they're rolling high off that Michigan victory. So expect them to, maybe they'll come out a little sluggish. Just hopefully, they maintain that point spread for all you bettors out there. Now you got Georgia and Kentucky on Saturday night, SEC on ABC. Kentucky's kind of down right now, but hey, you don't kick a dog while they're down. So I think Georgia got to take them serious because they may be wanting to get their get back on South Carolina and take it out on somebody else. On Big Ten network action, you have Nebraska against Northern Iowa, a pretty good FCS school. But with it being a young Nebraska team, you got to take people serious. I think they'll do well. They just got to, make sure that defense doesn't, take things for granted. And then Tennessee, they're playing Kent State, another stat game. Let's look at some other games that are not ranked. These were just top 25 games, but let's look at some other games because there's some other teams that are interesting games. They're just not ranked games. And oh man, okay, here it goes. Yeah, I was gonna pivot to another story, but I'll go to that later or whatever while I was loaded. But hit on these games really quick. You got UNLV and Kansas. Kansas was ranked, but they got upset against Illinois in a close one. Kansas is still a good team. UNLV is actually the front runner, or one of the front runners to go to the playoff, even ahead of Northern Illinois that's ranked right now. So that's on ESPN at 7 before you tune into that 8 o'clock game with Arizona and Kansas State. Also, another matchup of unranked teams. We got Florida State and Memphis. This may be the most interesting matchup of all this weekend. We want to see is DJU. They got 2 weeks to get ready since that bye week. Has DJU improved in practice? They've been giving reports about the practice and a lot of the same. And then people are debating, should the 5-star freshman Luke Cromanhope get a shot at quarterback before he transfers out and says no, by Mike Norvell, or maybe even Trevor Jackson, the 4-star freshman, or should it be the true sophomore that had to give up his red shirt, or maybe he does still have his red shirt. I don't know how many games he played, but Brock Glenn. The thing about it is, I didn't really see Brock Glenn throw down the field much in the first game. He did against Georgia, but it wasn't many completions, and then there was some drops, just like his drops now. About like Dorian Williamson and different guys. So just in general, not just DJU, I think Florida State's in a position. I don't even think they have the whole game. They got the first quarter. If those seniors are going to step up, the seniors that are like Kentrell Portier, lead them in, but the ones that are not, take them out. Even that defensive line. And if you don't believe me, ask Kirby Smart. He's taking guys out. Even with Florida with Texas A&M, that's going to be another SEC on ABC game at 3:30. That's probably the second biggest game after that Florida State game. Florida State and Florida have the similar thing, but Florida even worse because DJ Lagway showed that he can play, and people think that Florida may even be able to win this game with DJ Lagway starting. But Graham Mertz is supposed to be going to be the starter according to Billy Napier if he passes concussion protocol. But the thing about it is, are you going to risk your job, your assistant coach's job, all of these kids that are fighting job because of one guy? I know you want to keep your word to Mertz, but maybe let Mertz come off the bench and let DJ start. I don't know, but this is an SEC game. We know you're not competing for the conference title, but still, you want to win 8 games, 7 games if you can. And if this is a manageable, winnable game with Texas A&M, why not go with the hot hand? DJ Lagway threw for like 415 or something like that. He may have threw for more than that. But he threw for a lot of yards last week and 3 touchdowns. That interception is actually from the Miami game, where he was 3 of 6 against Miami. But let me see what exactly did he do last week. Okay, yeah, he threw for 456, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was 18 of 25. So I think he deserves to start. He also gives a lot on the ground, and not only that, being able to move around and scramble in the pocket, the similar way I was speaking on the Aaron Rodgers and the Kirk Cousins. And Graham Mertz is not a very mobile guy, and with Florida's offensive line not being the best, you probably want a guy that can avoid the pass rush. Then another matchup to look out for, Washington and Washington State, 2 undefeated teams, rivals. Washington State's mad that Washington left for the Big Ten. So that should be interesting at 3:30 on Peacock. Another one to look out for. Let's see how Iowa bounces back after the loss against Iowa State against Troy. That'll be a 4 o'clock game on FS1. Other games, okay, for you local Floridians, we got FIU and FAU. That's going to be at 6 o'clock. And then what else is another interesting game? Okay, South Florida and Southern Miss. South Florida's been giving a lot of people problems. They gave Alabama a lot of problems. They got Miami coming up in a couple of weeks. So let's see what South Florida has against an equal opponent in Southern Miss. Auburn looks to bounce back against New Mexico. And then also on NBC, you got the 7:30 game, Indiana against an undefeated UCLA team. But the big thing that we want to see, Colorado on CBS at 7:30. Can they bounce back after a big loss against Nebraska with another rivalry game on the road against Colorado State, a team that, they took them to the core last year? And then you got UCF and TCU, 2 undefeated Big 12 teams at 7 o'clock on Fox. So it is going to be an action-packed Saturday. Don't think just because it's not a lot of ranked on ranked matchups or ranked teams. No, football is football, especially when it's good. And speaking of football being good, let's skip over to Instagram really quick. Instagram is one of our segments of high school football. We're gonna check out high school football in South Florida and see what matchups do we have. So if you take a look at the screen, you got Miami Northwestern against Norland, and Norland is actually still ranked higher than Miami Northwestern because I believe the Armwood loss was a preseason game, so it doesn't count. But Northwestern took Venice to overtime on the road and actually had the lead. If it wasn't for Venice scoring a late field goal to cause overtime, so they led most of the game. They basically won the game, but they didn't win. So that's going to be interesting on Friday night. Then also you're going to have Blanche Ely in the big matchup on Friday night. Then you got St. Thomas against Western at Western. Then you have Edison taking on Chaminade. Then you got Miami Central taking on Pompano Beach. I didn't even know Pompano Beach had a high school. I thought Ely was the only high school in Pompano. But apparently they got a Pompano Beach high. Just like I didn't know about Fort Lauderdale High. I thought it was just Dillard. Boyd Anderson. Then you got Palmetto taking on Columbus after they got beat down by St. Thomas. Then you got American Heritage going up to Naples. Then you got Booker T taking on LaSalle at Trash Power. That's going to be a Thursday night game. And then you got Monarch going up to Seminole up there in Central Florida. Then you got Cardinal Gibbons and West Broward. West Broward is looking pretty good this year because they got the Florida commit Joshua Moore. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from this week in high school football. This was the Edison game. Well, actually, that's old. Isn't that from that looked like the old Edison and Miramar game. I don't know why they're still showing that again. And then also these are two South Florida legends that played at Columbus. I believe they won state titles. The quarterback from Cal, Fernando Mendoza, and then the running back from Ole Miss, Henry Parrish. Henry Parrish left Ole Miss, went to Miami, and now he's back at Ole Miss. And Henry Parrish actually showed out. Fernando Mendoza helped Cal beat Auburn. He went 25 for 36 and threw for 233 and 2 touchdowns to beat the SEC team on the road. So go ACC, as Cal is a new member of the ACC. And then Henry Parrish, way to go, my man. I know it was Middle Tennessee, but remember when he was at Miami, Middle Tennessee actually beat the Hurricanes. So he got his payback, even though the Hurricanes didn't. He had 14 carries for 165 yards and 4 touchdowns, averaging 11.8 yards per carry. And remember, when he was at Miami, he averaged like 6 yards per carry or something. This is some highlights of Mendoza from that Auburn game. You see him slinging it around. A lot of people thought, it was just Lamar Jackson and Teddy Bridgewater. No, something strange is in the water. South Florida is now producing quarterbacks. We finally caught up. We got every other position. Now we're producing quarterbacks. So that should be a good sign for Miami. I know it was a lot of quarterbacks last year, and we wanted the kid from Chaminade, but we kind of waited on him. We'll see what goes on. Luke Nickel looks like a pretty good quarterback for the Hurricanes in the 25 class. Now, looking at Henry Parrish, it's a lot of good blocks, but you still got to have the vision to follow behind them. Right here, by the goal line, he's basically walking in. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't seem like he's dealing with a lot of, defenders, but you can't help if you got a good offensive line. Put a move on right there. He actually got injured on this play. I was watching it live, but I think he came back in the game. And then here goes another touchdown to, finish it off. So this is the picture of these two when they were at Columbus, and it says they won a state title together in 2019. So shout out to the Columbus Explorers. Also, Dade County legend Frank Gore, he got himself put into the San Francisco 49ers Hall of Fame on Monday Night Football. So that's going to be the show for today. Also, another thing, Jeremiah Smith out of Chaminade, he's tearing it up at Ohio State. He was clocked at 21.7 miles per hour on that 70-yard touchdown. So, yeah, he's like a real live cheetah. you know, in the human form. But that's gonna be the show for the day. Put those picks in. I'm gonna bring it back up for a second. So those are the picks: the Yankees, the Braves, the Detroit Tigers. I almost said Lions. This is baseball. We got the Philadelphia Phillies, the Mets, and then in women's basketball, WNBA, we got the Minnesota Lynx. You guys have a good one.